This video is sponsored by the all-new Raycon Everyday Earbuds, but before I actually tell you about these amazing earbuds, I gotta tell you about some things that maybe some people don't tell you about when you join the Army. Things that, maybe aren't necessarily always in black and white. Your recruiter may tell you about this stuff, your recruiter may not tell you about this stuff, but I want to be transparent and I want to tell you about these things because these aren't things to discourage you from joining the Army, but sometimes if you don't know about these things, could be a big shock, could be a big surprise if you find out about them later while in the Army. So that's what I want to tell you about. I want to educate you about that stuff, and that video starts right now. So there's a lot of things that are just things you discover after being in the Army for a little bit. This information is probably available online. You can probably find this stuff. It's not like it's hidden somewheres, but it's not like typical things that people disclose up front. Maybe you might have some individuals that will tell you about this, before you join. Maybe your recruiter is cool enough and gives you all the ins and outs and tells you about this stuff, but just because they don't tell you about it doesn't mean they're corrupt or anything. Just sometimes it's not things that come about, and then you have to find out about it later on. Not necessarily bad stuff, right? But they are things that if you didn't know about this and you had other plans outside of certain things, maybe it could be a problem, maybe be an issue, maybe annoying to you. So I want to inform you about these things so that way you know about them before you join the Army. My veteran viewers, if I missed some stuff, make sure to hit that up down in the comment section down below. Let me know about some additional things, but nonetheless, let's get into this and let me tell you about some things that you should know about before you join. First one, if it's not in your contract, it's not guaranteed, all right? You're gonna have recruiters telling you some things sometimes here and there. I've had people message me asking about, hey, is this true? Is that true? My recruiter told me this. And the key thing is it needs to be in your contract, right? If it's not in your contract, it's not guaranteed. It doesn't mean you can't do it, it just means it's not guaranteed. A prime example of that is I had people tell me that they couldn't get airborne into their contract. They couldn't get guaranteed in their contract that they were gonna go off to airborne school after basic training or after AIT, but their recruiter told them that I can't get into your contract, but don't worry, you can ask the drill sergeants at basic training once you're completing or towards the end of basic training if you can volunteer to go off to airborne school. And sure, in some cases that is true, right? Sometimes you can do that. I've heard of people that especially went to basic training at Fort Moore, which is formerly known as Fort Benning. That's where the airborne school is at. And they were finishing up OSIT, they were finishing up basic training there, and they asked the drill sergeants, hey, I really want to go to airborne school. Is there anything I can do about that? And sometimes if they're cool, and they're willing to help a soldier out, they might check with that leadership over at the airborne, school and see if they got some available spots for the upcoming class that aren't filled, and maybe they can throw you into one of those slots. But the key thing is that if it's not in your contract, it's not guaranteed. Your drill sergeants could not be that willing to want to help you out. There may not be any available slots over there. If you're attending basic training at a different location, like you're going to basic training at Fort Leonard Wood or some other basic training site that is not at Fort Moore where the airborne school is actually at, then it's probably gonna be a little bit harder for them to send you to that because now they have to go a little bit more out of their way to send you over there. So if it's not in that contract, it's not guaranteed. Another example with that I've heard is people saying that, oh, they couldn't get this MOS, but the recruiter told them that, oh, don't worry, you can reclass to it later. And sometimes that can be the case, but again, not guaranteed. Usually when that is the case is if you go into an MOS and all of a sudden it becomes over strength and there's another MOS you're trying to get that now suddenly is under strength, then maybe they'll do something and let you kind of reclass. But for the most part, you're not gonna be able to reclass until the end of your contract. You do, let's say a 4-year contract, and towards the end of that 4-year contract, you wanna re-enlist to change your MOS. And if it's available, then you might be able to reclass to that other MOS, but otherwise, there's no guarantee, right? So usually, if you want a very specific MOS, you want to be this MOS, if it's not in your contract, there's no guarantee that you're gonna be able to switch to that other MOS you want to do. Your recruiter may tell you that, oh yeah, don't worry about it. Go in at this MOS, and then after you complete training, you can try to request a reclass. Sure, that might be an option, that might be a possibility, but the key thing here, it's not guaranteed. If you want it guaranteed, it's gotta be in that contract. Sorry to interrupt the video, but this video is sponsored by Raycon and their all new model of the Raycon Everyday Earbuds that now has active noise cancellation. These are definitely my go-to earbuds if I just want to kind of jam out and just listen to some great music, because one of the really great things is how comfortable they feel. I can really rock out and I don't feel like they're gonna fall out. They feel good, they feel solid in there. Some people might be worried about the price point. They see that, hey, it doesn't cost as much as some of these other competitors. That must mean that the quality isn't as good as these competitors, and that is definitely not the case. These things have amazing sound quality. I let one of my friends check them out and listen to them. He was pretty mad that these Raycon everyday earbuds sound way better than his earbuds that costed like $200 more than the Raycon earbuds do. This new model of the Raycon everyday earbuds actually comes in a lot more colors. I actually like this forest green that I've got going on here. Kind of gives me a little bit of an army vibe. They even have like a matching case with the same color, but I actually have this cool new cover that they have for their cases. This one is called Concrete, and it's a cool case that goes over your actual protective charging case to keep it safe. This new model even has quick charging to where you can charge it for 10 minutes, and that will result in 90 minutes of battery life. These are also IP66 weatherproof, so if you want to wear these while working out, you don't have to worry about them getting all messed up by getting sweat inside of them or anything else like that. Maybe you're going for a run in the rain, you'll probably be okay. But right now, you can save 15% off your Raycon purchase plus free shipping when you visit buyraycon.com/chaosarmy. I'll have a link down in the description box down below. Go check them out. I guarantee these earbuds are amazing. They're awesome. I love these things. Check them out in the link in the description. The next thing is that some people don't realize that they actually have an 8-year commitment. They may be like, no, I don't. I'm signing a 2-year contract. I'm signing a 4-year contract. I only have 4 years. I only have 2 years. Well, there's actually an 8-year commitment in there. Is what it really means is, let's say a most common scenario, right? You are enlisting for 4 years. You don't have any plans to be a lifer in the Army. You wanted to get that experience. You want that GI Bill. You want that college benefits type of thing. You're gonna do 4 years, get out and go to college. Well, after you finish those 4 years, you then still have that 8-year commitment. But what that really means is that after you complete those 4 years, let's say in this case, you're on active duty, you finish active duty, you get out of the Army, well, because of that 8-year commitment, that means you'll spend the last 4 years in what is called the IRR, or the Inactive Ready Reserve. Basically is what that means is if something crazy was to go down and they really need your MOS, they need people in that kind of job field or whatever, they can call you back because you're in that inactive ready reserve kind of area, that IRR, because of that 8-year commitment. And so you got those 4 years that possibly they could call you back to tell you, hey, we need you, we need your MOS, we need people with your experience, we need you to go deploy to this area, we need you to come into the Army to do this, whatever the case could be. And you're kind of stuck doing it because you signed the contract to agree to this 8-year commitment total. Now, is it very likely? No, probably not. I have only heard a very, very small amount of people that have gotten selected to actually have to go do this or got pulled back into the Army from the IRR. It's pretty rare. It's not impossible. It has happened to people, but it's not very common. So sure, you might get away with not getting called back, but there's always that potential. You just have to know that, hey, I do 4 years active duty, 4 years reserve, whatever the case is, I still have that total of 8 years I have committed to, and during that time period, they can call me back. So don't be surprised, right? I'm trying to help you out. You know, let's say you get out after 4 years and then all of a sudden, a year later, they call you back telling you have to come back. And you're like, no, I don't. I'm done with my contract. I did 4 years. Well, no, you do. You got to come back. So be aware, 8-year commitment. Now, of course, before you actually are in your first unit at, doing your job and everything else like that, you have that basic kind of training you have to go through to get those basic skills out of the way. And then you have to go off to AIT, or Advanced Individual Training, to learn your job. And some people may not realize that if they fail AIT, that can mess some stuff up. If you join the Army to do a specific MOS, right? You want to do this MOS, they send you to that schooling and everything after basic combat training, but there's just some part of that AIT, some tests, some requirements that you just can't pass. Well, if after however many attempts they want to give you to try to help you to be able to pass that school, to pass that AIT, and you still can't pass, it's not like you can really just be like, well, okay, I guess that didn't work out. Let me go do this job. Nope, they're probably going to put you in a job that they want to put you in by needs of the Army. Basically, if there's an MOS out there that is under strength, they need individuals. You couldn't pass this AIT to do this MOS, so we're going to throw you into this one that we need people in that are not volunteering for because of whatever reason, right? So it's under strength. You're going to go off that AIT. Hopefully you pass that one. There might be some cases where if they're not that strict on certain things, they can give you option just to get out of the Army, but right now the Army's kind of hurting on people, so they may not offer that to you. They're probably just going to throw you needs of the Army, and you're going to have to go reclass, go change MOSs to something else that maybe you didn't want to do. But if you couldn't pass that AIT, That's just what's gonna end up happening. Also, along with that, if you joined the Army and you got a bonus, right? The bonus was for you to do that job in the Army for that MOS, but you couldn't pass that AIT, now you have to go off to do a different MOS, you're not getting that bonus anymore. If that bonus was specifically for that MOS, you're not getting it. If it was just some kind of generic bonus of just join the Army, doesn't matter what you do, we're giving you a bonus type of thing, cool. You'll probably still be able to get that bonus as long as you pass all that initial training. But if that bonus was specifically for a specific MOS and you could not get that MOS because you failed the training, that also means you don't get that bonus. Now, you probably know that the Army does drug testing, right? That's probably something that's pretty common that people know. But sometimes people don't understand the extent of being drug tested while you're in the Army. Now, a lot of this applies to active duty, but active duty units, and I don't know if the Reserves and National Guard have the same requirements, but active duty units have to test at least 10% of the unit every month. So every month, they're gonna be doing some sort of urinalysis, a drug test, to test at least 10% of their unit. During that 10%, right, you could get called up, you might not get called up. Sometimes they do it in different ways where they call off the last, number of your social security number, and if you happen to fall in that category, then you have to go do it, or they call off by names or whatever, but they're supposed to do at least 10% of the unit every month. If they want, and they want to do more than 10%, they can do that too, right? They don't have to just do 10%. If that commander wants to do a 50%, wants to do 100% of the unit in that month, they can do that. The main thing they're trying to achieve with this is that they're required to test every soldier in their unit at least once a year. So by doing this 10% every month, they hope to catch everybody. But if they happen to notice that, hey, we've got some people that we haven't caught, then they might up the numbers and, all right, this month we're doing 100% just to cover our baseline, to make sure that we tested everybody in this year and we're covered on that and we don't get in trouble. So while they're required to make sure that every soldier is tested once a year, there's a good chance that you might do more than just one urinalysis in that year. So you're gonna have to pee in a cup more than once. I have had times where I did a urinalysis in 1 month, and then the next month I had to do another one, and then maybe a couple months down the road, all of a sudden they got 100% again, and now we gotta do 100%, because especially like if the commander has some kind of suspicion that somebody might be using drugs, but they don't know exactly who, then they might be like, screw it, we're gonna do 100% urinalysis this month, and that way hopefully we can catch those people that might be using drugs. So it's not a thing like, okay, cool, I just have to worry about it once a year, and once I knock that once a year urinalysis out, maybe I can use some drugs for a couple months or whatever, because I don't have to worry about it until the next year. I'm not gonna get tested, and that stuff's gonna be out of my system. No, that's not the case. You could possibly, very easily, get tested several times in a year. I've heard from some people when I've mentioned this topic saying that, oh, I've been in my unit for a year, 2 years, 3 years, and I've never done a drug test. Well, sure, maybe that happens. That means your leadership is failing at something, and if they get caught, they can get in some trouble because legally, by Army standards, they have to test everybody at least once a year. Also, you need to understand, right, that doing the drug test in the Army, it's not like it is in the civilian world, right? The civilian world, maybe you have to go do it for employment purposes or whatever. You go to like a local hospital, you go to a local area where they do the drug testing, they give you a cup, they tell you to go in this bathroom over here, pee in the cup, and then bring the cup back out with you. It's not exactly like that in the Army. In the Army, they are pretty strict about it. You have an observer, usually a non-commissioned officer, that is going to go with you into that bathroom to watch you physically pee. You're not gonna be left alone because they don't wanna take any chances of people using like fake pee or something like that. So you're gonna go into that bathroom with another individual of the same sex. So if you're male, then there's gonna be a male observer, and that observer is going to watch you physically pee inside of that cup to make sure that you're not contaminating that sample and not let it out of their eyes. And then you have to seal it in front of them type of thing, carry it back for them to tape it up and everything. So they're gonna physically watch you pee. It's a little weird having someone watch you pee into a cup, but nonetheless, that is how they do it in the Army. Now, one last one. If you're on active duty, you're on call 24/7. You may have a specific work schedule that's pretty common where you're just working like Monday through Friday, this hour to this hour type of thing, but technically, you're on call 24/7. If your leadership calls you up or something goes down and they're like, hey, you need to be over here at this time, you got to do it. It's not a thing where like, oh man, I've already worked 40 hours this week. I'm all out of hours. I need some overtime or something like that. Nope, you're pretty much 24/7. This won't necessarily be the case like if you're National Guard Reserves. I mean, technically they can do like alerts and call you up for emergencies or certain things, but especially with active duty, you know, there's times where maybe you might be done for the evening, you go home, and then something goes down and they're like, oh crap, this didn't get accomplished. Maybe someone dropped the ball or wherever the case was, and they maybe call somebody that's conveniently located nearby, maybe someone in the barracks, maybe tell them, hey, I need you to go down to the motor pool and go take care of this real quick, or grab a few other people to go down there with you and stuff like that. And it's not a thing like where you can just be like, oh, you know, I've already met my hours. Nope, you're pretty much a 24/7 soldier. There's ways people kind of get out of that. They'll tell their leadership, oh, I've already been drinking, and then, okay, maybe they won't bug you, and if you do that too many times, they might think you have a drinking problem, but there's ways people kind of get around some of the stuff, but nonetheless, you know, technically they can call you up at any time of the day, tell you to go to the motor pool, go do this, go do that. There is some talks I've actually heard where some leadership is gonna make it to where they cannot call you past a certain hour, which can be great, right? It'd be nice to be able to have that guaranteed family time, you know, type of thing, but still, if it's an emergency, they're gonna still be able to call you back. If they really want to, they can even call you back from leave, even if you're on vacation. It's kind of a rare thing, but I've heard of it, you know, once in a great blue moon happened where something serious was going down and some soldiers were out on block leave and they told them, hey, you got 48 hours to get back. We need you to get back here. We got some crap that's got to get taken care of. Maybe it's for a deployment. Maybe it's something where somebody really screwed up and they need everybody back for it. I don't know, right? There's a lot of possibilities, but technically, even being on vacation, being on leave is not going to save you from being called back to work. It's usually got to be a pretty good reason, but nonetheless, they can do that if they want to do so. So down in the comment section down below, right? I want to hear from some of my veteran viewers out there. What are some things you feel like people need to know about before they join, right? Some people may have some suggestions, some advice or whatever, and I'd like to get your input down in the comment section down below for other individuals to be able to learn about what things they should know about that maybe people don't tell you about before you join the Army. Like I said, I'm not trying to discourage you from joining the Army, but it is always best to go into situations knowing about things. So that way you're planned, you're prepared for it, whatever you want to kind of think of it as. That way it's not a big surprise when all of a sudden this comes about, this happens, that happens. You knew that it could possibly happen, and you're like, oh, I knew this could possibly happen. Here it is, right? And it's not like a surprise like, what? They can't do this. No, they can, and you're kind of stuck dealing with it. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for watching. I'm Christopher Chaos, and I'll see you next time. See ya. Whoa, 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 high speed. Where are you going? Don't go taking off just yet. I got this video right here that you probably haven't seen. In fact, I'm pretty sure you haven't seen it, and you don't have anything better to do, right? Go watch it. Go check it out.